Good morning, everybody. I'm here from Geneva for another webinar of the IEC Academy. Today we will be talking about the best practice for working group conveners and project leaders. And with me today is Pierre, the manager of the technical department. So good morning, Pierre. Let's start this webinar. I give you the floor.
Okay, thank you, Jan. Good morning, Jan. Good morning to everybody. So I'm Pierre Severlin. I'm working in the IEC Central Office in Geneva, and we're gonna go through a few slides about the best practices for working group conveners and project leaders. So first of all, the role of the convener and the project leader. In the IEC community, this is a very important role, and because basically effective leadership will be really critical to the working group success. The convener and the project leader, in fact, they are responsible for calling and chairing meetings of the working groups and the project team, and they are also responsible for the development of standardization projects. In general, these are general guidelines on how to behave and act as a convener or a project leader. So you have to act, in fact, purely in an international capacity. As a project leader or as a convener, you have to, divest yourself from the national viewpoints and also from, the industry viewpoints, and so on, and you have really to be purely to act in an international capacity. You're responsible for building the consensus in the working group. Okay, the consensus is absence of sustained opposition, and consensus doesn't mean unanimity. Okay, you have to lead meetings effectively and fairly. You have to guide delegates and experts towards the consensus, and you have to make sure that all views receive equal treatment. A general description of a technical committee internal structure. So the committee is managed by a secretary and a chair, and then we have several types of groups. We have ad hoc group, we have advisory groups, we have working groups, we have project team, and we have maintenance teams. And in a technical committee, when the matter is quite complex, there is the possibility of establishing subcommittees which have the exact same structure. Now let's go a little more in detail about the purpose of each of these groups. In fact, a working group, WG, is intended to develop a set of standards, or a single standard or a set of standards. A working group is expected to be disbanded when the work that he was assigned to has been done. And also the SMB requests the Central Office to monitor the activity of working groups and to spot inactive working groups.
Pierre, we have a question already asking about equal treatment. You mentioned equal treatment, and this is Christophe Fougier who asks equal treatment even those completely out of scientific reality.
Yeah, well, what I was meaning by equal treatment is, I mean that in fact, when you have people in working groups, you have to, provide the same attention to the contributions of each person in the working group. I hope I've been clear to explain what I was meaning by equal treatment. Okay, maybe I will move forward, and if there are other questions or if I was not clear, then the person can be back.
Okay.
So, yes. Okay. So then there is the maintenance teams. So maintenance teams are also responsible to maintain one or a set of standards. And as maintenance is a never-ending job, the difference with a working group is that an inactive maintenance team will not be disbanded. And the Central Office is not requested by the SNB to look and screen inactive maintenance teams. Then project teams. So project teams are established when a project cannot be assigned to an existing working group and the technical committee doesn't want to establish a specific working group for a single project. And that project team will be automatically disbanded at the end of the project. So basically this is typically used when you have a project which is somehow transversal or maybe very specific and which doesn't fit into an existing working group, but the technical committee doesn't want to add on in the structure a working group, an additional working group for a specific project. So the project team structure is for that purpose. Then there are also in the technical committee advisory groups. They are established for providing advice to the technical committee, to the chair and to the secretary. These groups, they cannot develop standards and they cannot also, make any decisions. They make recommendations that needs to be further approved by the technical committee, by the P members in the technical committee. And finally, we have ad hoc groups. These are some kind of short-term groups that are dealing with the specific subjects. So for example, if during a plenary meeting, you have a discussion which is starting to be extending and taking a lot of time, and the subject looks to be complicated, then you can propose to establish an ad hoc group that will discuss specifically that subject and report to the next meeting. All these groups, for all these groups, in fact, the experts and the members nominated into these groups, the nomination is handled and is the responsibility of the P members of the committee. There are also CAGs, which are chair advisory groups, but these CAGs are not defined into the IEC directives, and they are still existing in many technical committees, and nominations in that case are made by the chair. How are these groups managed? So a working group is managed by a convener. It is possible to nominate a co-convener. The purpose of a co-convener is to share the management, share the workload. Also in the specific case of joint working groups, then for example with ISO, you can have somebody from ISO also there that will ensure the coordination with ISO. We also have maintenance teams. So in the maintenance team, we also have conveners, and there's also the possibility for a co-convener. As for project teams, the project team are managed by the project leader. When a working group or a maintenance team has several projects ongoing at the same time, it is recommended to organize internally the working group or the project or the maintenance team in subgroups that are project teams. And each project team will have a project leader. Regarding the nomination of a convener, this has to be approved by the P members of the committee, and this is usually approved at the same time of the approval of the working group. The nomination of the project leader, the name for the project leader, so then the name of the project leader is part of the NP form and is approved together with the project. Okay, so one of the key sources of information regarding the activity of a committee and the working groups into a committee is the IEC website. Specifically, what we call the technical committee dashboard. The technical committee dashboard is some kind of a mini website dedicated to the committee. In that dashboard, you can find information about the structure of the committee with the subcommittees, the working groups, the maintenance team, the project teams, and all the other groups. You can find information about the ongoing projects. You can find archives of the published projects. You can find the list of all the circulated documents during the past year, and you can find more information. There's more information there. So all the information that you can see on the dashboard is dynamic. This means that every time we display this information, it has been just extracted from the IEC information system. So it is always reflecting the current status of the data. Let's go as an example of a dashboard. Let's go to the TC18 dashboard. Here's the TC18 dashboard. So, well, on the main page, you can see the structure. You can see where is the secretariat. And you can see also the strategic business plan. And the strategic business plan provides, the general strategy of the TC. Then in the structure tab, okay, you can see first who are the P members and the O members. But you can also see here the officers. There you can see who is the chair, who is the secretary, who is the technical officer from Central Office in charge of that technical committee. You can see also who is the administrative assistant and who is the editor. If you log in, you can have more information. So if, for example, if myself, I log in now, here, I do the login, and then I come back here, and I have here more detailed information about the offices of the TC. Then I can see the liaisons, and I can see here the structure. So I can see that there is a subcommittee, 18A, there is a working group, there is a project team, and maintenance teams. When I click on a working group, for example, this working group 33, here, I can see here the name of the convener, and I can see here the list of the members. So this is about the information about the structure and the membership into the committee. I can also go to the project and publications tab, and here I can see the whole work program. So this is the list of all the projects that are assigned to the committee, in that case for TC18. And if I click, so for each project here, each line is representing an active project. I can see here the IEC number. This is IEC 60092-101, edition 5. This is the project. We can see here that the last document circulated was a CDV. When it was, this is the initial date. So this is the starting of the project. So the project started in 2013 in August. Then we have the current stage, which is the FDIS is approved. It's approved to go for FDIS, sorry. Then the next stage is the translation of the FDIS. Then you can see here the working group in charge of the project. This is MT2. You can see the project leader. And this is the forecast publication date. If you click on the link, which is the name of the standard, then you can go into that project and you can see the whole project history with all the documents. And then you can click on the documents to open the documents there. Okay, so let's go back. So this is for the detailed. So there you have really a fully detailed information about all the projects going on. If you go to the other tab, which is called Project Files, this is the archives, and here you can see all the previous projects that have been developed and that are now published. So here, if you want to look back into, for example, the previous edition, we were in edition 5. If you wanted to look at the edition 4, you can find that here in that project, in that project list. If you want to look back into the project and all the documents that were related to the previous edition. Then on the Documents tab here, you can see all the documents that have been published, that have been circulated by the technical committee. And you can see there, so the reference of the document, you can download the document, you have the circulation date. When there is a ballot open, you have the closing date for the ballot. It displays here where if there is a Senelec parallel vote. And this is the voting of the comment results. So Once the CDV here is closed, then just after the closing a few hours, all the votes are closing on Friday midnight Geneva time, and within the next hours, the IEC Central Office information system is making all the vote results and comments available online, and this is by clicking on that provisional button that you can access to the results of the votes and the comments. And this is made automatically. Then here you have all the TCs that are also that were invited to check into that document. Okay, I will not go there, otherwise you have here all the votes. So that tab displays all the ballots currently ongoing into the TC, for example, TC 18 for that one. And here this is information about the previous and the next meetings. So you have the last meeting with the agenda and the minutes, and you have the next meeting with the document related, which is the announcement. Okay, so this is what I wanted to show about the dashboard of the technical committee. One more information is when you have, anytime you have a list, if you click on the Excel button here, you're going to open Excel and have the exact same list on Excel format. Okay, let's go back to the PowerPoint. So, as we have discussed about the development of projects and the work program, let's go quickly through the process to develop a standards. The regular process is a 7 stages process that we see here. And we have, first of all, the preliminary stage, where we can record on the program of work preliminary work items. And when we want to initiate a project, we have the NP. This is the new project form, and this is a document that contains the description of the new standards to be developed and which opens the ballot for the approval of the launching of the project. Once the ballot is closed, then there is the report of vote on the new project, and this is a document that displays the results of vote, whether the project has been approved or not. Then there is the preparatory stage, and there the working group is working internally to develop an internal draft. Once the working group considers that the draft is mature enough to be submitted to the committee, the national committees, and to be submitted for comment to the national committees, then there is a committee draft, CED, which is circulated. Once the ballot is closed, then the working group is receiving comments from the national committees, and the working group will consider the comments and further work on the draft. And when they think the draft is mature enough to be voted on, then they move to the CDV stage. And from the CDV, once on the CDV, the national committees would comment, but would also vote to state whether they would approve or not that draft. And the results of the votes plus the comments are provided into the RVC form. Then, once we are done with the RVC, the next stage is the last stage, which is the approval stage. And then the working group is preparing the final draft international standards, the FDIS, by resolving the comments received on the CDV and integrating the last changes into the document. Once this FDIS is ready, it is submitted for vote to the national committees, and the national committees may only state whether they will approve or not the standards, but there is no comments anymore to be made. Well, there are some specific cases for comments, but basically it's not expected to provide comments to further work on the document, because once the FDIS is approved, then it is finalized at the IEC Central Office, but we publish the document as approved by the P members. So we have a lot of acronyms, and here is just a resume of all the acronyms that are used and that have been used. I will not go back in detail because I explained them. There is a few important milestones from the working group standpoints during this development process. First of all, in the RVM form, so which is the result of voting on an NP, in the form, I have here made a snapshot of that section of the form, but you have the target dates that are provided into the documents. And so in the RVM, there are proposed target dates for the submission of a CD, a CDV, an FDIS, and the final standards. So these target dates have to be considered by the convener of the working group and by the project leader, because they are milestones for them, and they have to get organized to meet these dates. And of course, they are also, they should discuss these dates together with the secretary before circulating the RVN and have a clear vision of the work to be done and to propose the proper dates. So then, after this first milestone, which is really planning the project and making that project plan, sharing that project plan with the P members, the next stage is the committee draft, the CD, and of course, this is the first document a working group will have to work on and to prepare, and it's going to have to be delivered as the target date proposed in the RVM. After the CD, the working group will receive the comments from the national committees, and within 4 weeks, the comments received have to be circulated, and within 4 weeks after the ballot closing. And it is possible to circulate what we call unresolved comments. This means that when you have comments, the working group is expected to answer whether the working group accepts the comments, whether the working group rejects the comments, or accept the comment in principle and maybe make another proposal. Okay? It's very important to circulate all the comments for transparency reasons, because it's important that, for example, one country knows the comments from the others. Okay? And if the working group doesn't have the time to go through all the comments and resolve all these comments, then it's very important to circulate these unresolved comments within 4 weeks. Okay, then these comments, when they have been resolved, then the changes corresponding to the resolution have to be integrated into the committee draft, plus maybe other changes that are discussed in the working group, and all these changes lead to develop the committee draft for vote, the CDV. Okay, and that's the same. There is also a deadline for preparing the CDV and circulating it. This is the one that was proposed in the RVN. Okay, once the ballot is closed on the CDV, that's the same. We also have the comments, and we also have the vote results. And it is also important to circulate within 4 weeks the vote results and the comments received, always for transparency reason, and because everybody wants to know whether that document was approved or not. Okay, and that's the same. If you need more time to resolve the comments, then you can circulate first the document with the RVC with the uncomment results, and later on you can make an A version with the resolved comments. And finally, the last deadline for the working group is the preparation of the FDIS, the Final Draft International Standards, and that has to be delivered also as well according to the target date proposed here, proposed RBM.
Hello,
yes?
Pierre. We have a question from Pierre-André Monfil. Who defines these target dates?
So the target dates here, we receive the document, the RVN is a document prepared by the secretary. Okay, so the secretary of the technical committee is proposing these target dates, and when we receive the document at central office, we expect that the secretary has discussed with the convener and the working group and the experts in the working group and has agreed on these target dates. So the person making the final decision is the secretary, but the target dates should be discussed within the working group. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Apart from these target dates, the directives, they set also maximum times for the preparation of a CD, a CDV, and an FDIS. So at the central office, we are requested to start the clock of each project when the RVN is circulated, and from there, as per the directives, there is a maximum time of 12 months to circulate the CD, a maximum time of 24 months to circulate the CDV, and a maximum time of 33 months to circulate the FDIS, and a maximum time of 36 months to publish the standard. So in addition to the target dates that are decided at the technical committee levels, there are maximums that should not be should not be passed, and if some projects are taking more time than these ones, then the central office is requested by the SMB to monitor these projects and contact the secretary and ask why they are late. So just go back here on the, in fact, every time there is a ballot that is closed, the documents, the report of the voting has a deadline to be circulated. So after the NP, this is a maximum of 4 weeks to circulate the RVN. After the CD, there is a maximum of 4 weeks to circulate the compilation of comments. After the CDV, there is 12 weeks. After the FDIS, there is 2 weeks. Okay, now some guidelines and information about the preparation of a working group, maintenance team, and project team meeting. So we have, for example, so we can have meetings that are held face-to-face or online. For each of these meetings, it is highly recommended to communicate to the working group member via the IEC collaboration tool, and to use that collaboration tool to send any information. In the collaboration tool, you will always send the information to the last list of working group members, because P members can nominate some experts anytime. So it's not recommended to download Excel files or to have your own list of email address, because they may change anytime. It's better to post a document on the collaboration tools.
Pierre?
The working group meetings, yes?
We have a question from Huaigo Zhou. What is the difference and the relationship between a project and a working group?
Okay, so in fact, a working group can handle more than one project. And so a working group is usually organized internally in project teams, each project team having a project leader. The project leader is the one approved at the voting of the NP. So in fact, a working group can have several projects ongoing with a specific project leader for each project. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
So the working group meetings, they should be announced at least 6 weeks in advance to the meeting. There should be a meeting agenda posted on the collaboration tools, and also the related documents should be posted in advance on the collaboration tools. When you have a meeting, you should also prepare an attendance list, and when it's a face-to-face meeting, you should have that signed. Otherwise, online you should make a roll call in order to identify who is attending the meeting and who is not. Also, the collaboration tools should be the place to store and share all the working group and project documents. Regarding the logistics, when you organize a meeting, so regarding face-to-face meetings, the working group meetings can be posted, can be hosted by a working group member or a national committee. So, for example, a working group member could invite to host a working group meeting into the company facilities. Otherwise, national committees, they also have meeting rooms and they may also host working group meetings. One thing which is important when you host a working group meeting is that you should make sure that all the members of the working group can come into the country where the meeting is organized. Okay, and also the host should also provide invitation letters for visa purposes. It is not allowed to request financial contributions for attending working group meetings. This means that, for example, in some organizations, they would organize working group meetings in hotels, and they would ask the participants for a fee to contribute to the cost of the meeting room. And this is not a practice that we accept in the IEC, and we ask the working group to meet in places, I mean, like mentioned above, in national committees, facilities, or in industry facilities. Regarding online meetings, so this is of course a practice that we also highly support in order to save costs on travels for the whole community. And the central office is providing online meeting services, we use the GoToMeeting system in order to organize online meetings. And for the first, if you can organize online meeting, and for the first time you have first to discuss with your secretary, who will explain you and put you in contact with the central office people responsible to organize that. And later on, when you have direct contact with central office, you can directly contact the administrative assistant and ask for an online meeting organized. The experience about online meeting shows that although you can have full-day face-to-face meetings, it's difficult to have full-day online meetings. And we usually say that it's a maximum of 2 hours to have a good online meetings. And what the working group using online meetings are doing is that instead of having a full day face-to-face, they would have, for example, during 3-4 days, they would have 2 hours of meeting every afternoon, for example. Regarding the handling of liaisons at the working group level. So, technical committee can have liaisons with several groups and entities. What we call an A liaison, a liaison A is in fact a liaison with an international organization like a consortia. And when an A liaison is established by the committee, then this liaison can nominate experts in the working group. So you can have in your working group experts coming from a consortia or that have been nominated by a consortia, for example. These experts, in the case of an A liaison, they are expected to bring their own experience and knowledge to the group, like any expert nominated by any national committee. When you have a D liaison, then also this is also a liaison with the consortia at, this one is at the working group level, but then the expert nominated by the consortia, in the case of a D liaison, this expert is expected to bring in the voice and the position of the consortia. So in that case, the expert is not expected to speak and bring his own personal expertise, but he is expected to bring the voice of the consortia. So this means that when he comes at the meeting, he is expected to have first a discussion at the consortia level and to come with some kind of a consensus position representing the consortia position. Then regarding the liaisons that the technical committee may have with other IEC committees or with other ISO technical committees, for these liaisons, they are at the committee level, and usually there are no experts from these other TCs that are participating to working group meetings. Okay, anyway, the working group or maintenance team or project team convener or project leader can invite guests. Okay, so when you organize working group meetings, there is no problem to invite guests. One good practice is to make the working group members aware that guests will be participating to the meeting. Finally, once you have finished your meeting and you have prepared a new draft, I mean, with the working group, you should always think about which technical committee could be impacted by the content of your document, of your draft, and you should inform the secretary when sending the document for circulation to the secretary. You should inform him that that document should be open for review to TC2, TC62, TC100, and so on. So it's also important not to forget that, I mean, the other technical committees that may be impacted by your work. Some other comments about how to efficiently handle the resolution of the comments. Because the resolution of the comments is an important activity during the meeting, and this needs to be really properly prepared in order to do this revision very efficiently. So a few things a few guidelines to do that resolution efficiently. First of all, when you receive the compilation of comments from the voting system, the comments, they are sorted by P member, so by country. Okay, they are sorted by country. So, but each comment is referring to a line number. So you should then sort these comments by line numbers, and then you will find for the same clause or the same line or the same sentence all the comments that you received for that sentence from all the national committees. And then you can better, you can really better process the comments. So before the meeting, the convener or the project leader should go through all these comments and make some kind of a pre-treatment to have a more efficient meeting. And the project leader should propose resolutions for these comments. So the comments can be editorial, technical, or general. And the commenting national committee is indicating whether the comment is editorial, general, or technical.
Pierre?
So all the, yes?
We have a question from Pierre-André Monfils. Could you please clarify the roles and rights of liaison members, particularly in the term of vote?
Yeah, so in fact, the members nominated through a liaison A and a liaison D have the same membership rights than members nominated by the countries. Okay? They have the same rights, so they are full members and they can vote. People invited by the conveners and guests, they cannot vote. They are not really members. Basically, you will see any person listed in the membership list that I showed previously on the dashboard. All these persons are the formal members of the working group. And so all these persons, they are entitled to vote. Okay, I move forward. So we have three types of comments: the editorial, the technicals, and the general comments. The editorial comments should be checked by the project leader and resolved. I mean, you should propose, yes, we accept, this is a typo, and so on. Then concerning the general and technical comments, the ones that are obviously justified, you should propose already to accept them. And the ones that you are not sure and then that you think that they deserve a real discussion, then you should mark them as to be discussed at meeting. Okay? And this compilation of comments with these draft resolutions, it is recommended to send that out to all the working group members before the meeting. Then all the working group members, they can go through this and the proposed resolutions, and they can already make their mind whether they accept the proposed resolution. And so when you are then at the meeting, it will be much more efficient. And then I'm back on also on the subject of working in a very open manner, is that all views regarding these comments should be fairly considered. And of course, all the efforts of the project leader should be made to develop the consensus. So the central office can help project leaders and conveners to do their work. The central office, mainly the technical and at the central office, for each technical committee, we have a technical officer assigned together with an administrative assistant. The role of the technical officer is to provide support on application of the directives. Basically, the technical officer is a person at central office that has been trained and is expected to provide expertise on the directives, to provide expertise about how to establish working groups, nominate conveners, establish liaisons, and also expertise about the project management, how to start a project, what are the documents needed, and so on. So the technical officer has this expertise and is there to provide support to the technical committee. The administrative assistant, she is also there. Her role is to circulate all the documents, to check the forms, to check the documents, and also she is in charge of handling all the online meetings and also the preparation of the plenary meetings. So she is providing help in this area. What is important is that the primary contact from the central office standpoint is the technical committee secretary, because that person is responsible and is formally responsible for all the documents circulated into the technical committee. So a technical officer or an administrative assistant will not accept a CD or CDV coming directly from a convener. We are expecting to receive these documents from the secretary. So once you are ready with these documents, you should send them to the secretary to be further then to be further provided to central office. So we expect documents from secretaries. Regarding web conferencing, so this is also, as I mentioned, a service that we offer. We also have the IEC standard template, which is a Word template, which should be used at the earliest stage of the development of a publication in order to provide the proper format. Once we have received the CDV, at central office we do the editing of the CDV, and we do that in track changes, and then we return that edited document to the secretary. When we do the editing, the editor making the work of editing is not an expert into the technical field of the committee, but is an expert about the format and the content of a standard. And the editor will check if the scope is clear and describes the content of the standard, will check that all the normatives reference are properly documented, we'll check that the terminology is properly documented, we'll check that the standard has the proper structure with a scope, with normative references, with terms and definitions, and then requirements and proper annexes. We'll check the normative part of the document, the informative part of the document, that they don't contain requirements and so on. So he will really make, or he or she will really make a global analysis of the documents.
Pierre?
Yes?
I have a question from Claudia Klump. She writes a long comment and a question. I had to deal with about 50 pages of comments. It was very complicated to track back how later changes in the meeting influenced the proposed comment resolutions for editorial comments. For example, sentence later deleted, editorial comments on the sentence had to be changed. Is there a best practice? How many times does a convener or project leader has to prepare the comments resolution and implement the changes into the draft?
Yeah, usually, so this is right. So I guess that the question is about comments that are made by the P members on a CD or a CDV. And in such a case, effectively, you can have sometimes documents that receive just a few comments, and you can have sometimes documents that receive many, many comments. I've seen more than 3,000 comments on one document once. So this is a real challenge to handle. So when you have numerous comments, it's very important, first of all, to sort them by line number, and then to try to first take out all the ones that are dealing with small editorial changes, and then you need really to to analyze the comments and to get organized. In such a case where there was so many comments, this was about the general standard about medical equipment in TC 62, and in fact they just organized subgroups that would deal about such an amount of comments. So there was a group of people taking care of all the comments regarding clause 1, 2, 3, and 5, and another group taking care of all the comments, and so on and so on. So they tried to get organized and to split the work on the comments for the resolution of the comments. So I hope I've answered the question. But this is effectively, when you have a lot of comments, it's a real challenge to handle the comments.
Thank you. Another question from Pierre-André Monfils. On the comment template, the comment resolution is indicated to be given by the secretary, not by the working group convener. This is contradictory with your slide, he says.
Well, as I mentioned, the person in charge of all the documents to be circulated by a technical committee, the person responsible is the secretary. And this is why it is formally the secretary. But basically, the secretary will never resolve all the comments of all the projects in a committee, because the secretary And also the P members, they have voted and approved. When you approve a document, you vote, all the P members vote on that NP. And in the NP, you also have the name of a project leader. And so when you approve the document, you also approve the project leader. So basically, in practice, the resolution of the comments is made at this, by the working group or by the project team, okay, under the management of the convener or under the management of the project leader. And once they are resolved, then the project leader or the convener sends the resolved comments to the secretary. And this is the secretary who is in fine, as per the organization of the IEC, who is the formal responsible for, sorry, for the resolution of the comments. So this is why I indicate that this is the secretary. So formally, this is the secretary. In practice, this is the working group and the experts in the working group that needs to develop a consensus on the resolution. I hope I answered the question. Okay. Regarding, so the other support from Central Office, there is also a part of the IEC website where you have information and support and help for drafting IEC publication. And you have the link here. I will not go in detail into the content of that website, but here in that part, you can find how to write a term definition, how to insert a table, how to insert a figure, how to write equations, and so on. So you will find a very, very interesting and useful practical information. And finally, the Central Office is also providing training services, and mainly now via the new IEC Academy that we are putting into place. So this is an ongoing project which is not terminated, but these webinars, for example, are part of that project. I'd like also to talk about the Code of Conduct. So we have a document on the IEC, and you have the link to download it, that can help the convener and the project leaders to manage the working groups and manage the behavior and the work of the experts into a working group. So this Code of Conduct provides guidelines on issues that delegates and experts may be confronted as participants in a working group. So for example, there is some guidelines about how to discuss about your work in working groups on social media, about antitrust, not laws, but antitrust work and anti-competition issues, about patent rights, about copyright issues. So you may download that document, and that can really help sometimes when you have some difficult situations to handle. And also when you have maybe specific, not adequate attitude from experts in your working group, then you can rely on that Code of Conduct to bring the people back into the proper attitude. Okay. Yeah, so I guess I'm now through all the slides. I'd like to thank you for listening, and I'm ready to answer any further question that may be raised. So is there any other questions?
Yes, indeed, Pierre. We had some questions which I asked to be answered here in the session because they didn't really fit into your presentation or more or less. So we have one question. Will you discuss also of the conditions under which a convener can be revocated, changed if he does not perform according to IEC standards of conduct? From Christophe Rouquier, a question.
Okay, so the convener is elected by the technical committee P members. Okay, if you feel you have a problem with your convener, the first thing to do is to report back to your national committee, because your national committee is P member into the technical committee, and the national committee is entitled to report problems and to effectively raise the question of the convener. of the proper attitude of the convener. Okay, so this is the way, and otherwise the convener has to be reconfirmed every 3 years. Okay, so every 3 years, this is always also the opportunity to rediscuss and the work and also the proper work and the adequation of the convener for the working group. But in case of problem with the convener, the first thing to do is to report back to your national committee. Other questions?
Okay, thank you. There's another question from Cor. Let me just have a look from Cor. There's Luis. In the maintenance team, also several projects can be assigned or started. I guess the projects in the maintenance team need a mandate to start, or can they initiate the start by initiating an RR?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't effectively discuss in details about the process to initiate the maintenance of a project. But basically, at every plenary meeting, the committee is requested to revise what we call the stability dates of all the standards of the committee. So each standard has a stability date. And let's say that a standard would have a stability date of 2020. We know that we need approximately 2 to 2.5 years to develop a standard. So let's say that in the middle of 2019, then it would be the time to start the project, to be ready and have finished the project in 2020. And then at that time you would start the project, and the first thing to do is to seek the opinion of the P members regarding what needs to be revised and maintained into the standard. So the working group would meet, would review the standard, and would maybe make some proposal. In that standard, we think we should change this, 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 and this. And then with that list should be sent to the secretary. The secretary will circulate a DC, a document for comment, to the P members, announcing that or proposing to start a project, proposing to start a maintenance project, and with the list of the items to be maintained, and that document would be sent to the P members for comments, and each P members would be requested to answer whether they support or not the maintenance of the document, and also what kind of work should be done as a maintenance. So once these comments are received, they in fact are the proper mandate given to the working group to do the maintenance. And based on that DC and the INF, which is circulated to compile the comments received from the DC, then this is the base to circulate the review report. And in the review report, you have the synthesis stating that the project is started, and you also, the date of the circulation of the review report is the date of the start of the project. Any other question or any more details needed about maintenance? But I agree that maintenance is some kind of a little specific and would maybe deserve a specific webinar later on.
So Cor says okay, and we have another question from Des Ward. Our maintenance team often has members who cannot attend in person, so they teleconf into the face-to-face meeting for the entire day or 2 days. Is the 2-hour rule for IEC organized webinars a definite rule, or can it be made available for the entire day for members unable to attend in person? This is asked by Des Ward, who is the TC 106 MT3 convener.
Yes, no, it's not a rule. It was just a recommendation, I mean, from the experience we have with working group meetings, okay? But basically, effectively, when you have full days face-to-face meetings, you can ask to have the online participation service for other experts, and then the experts, they can connect and they can try to connect and stay the whole day. It's no problem. So This was just a recommendation, like a best practice. It's not a rule at all.
Okay, this was right. Thank you. I agree. It's difficult to be online for the entire day. So yeah. We have another comment from Corvus Luis. Currently in TC34, SC34, we have working groups acting as MT, never-ending work. Should these working groups be renamed to NT, or is it not a mandatory naming of the group?
No, it's not mandatory at all, but maybe once the SMB is requesting the central office to do screening into the activities of the working groups. So maybe once these working groups, they will be spotted as inactive, and before, so then we can discuss with the working group convener and the secretary whether this group at that time should be renamed as an NT. So if one central office comes to you and tells you, well, we've spotted your working group has not been active for a few years, do you think you should disband that group? Then you can answer, well, we don't foresee any activity and okay for disbanding. Or you can answer, well, we will have maintenance work to do. Can we be converted into a maintenance team? And then the conversion into a maintenance team is P members' decision. So that has to be sent out as a DC to the P members, and the P members would approve or not. The decision is not to the central office to do the conversion.
Okay, just a comment to this from Corvus Luis. We are acting differently by very active working groups. Of course, it's a very active working group is also good.
Yeah, well, many working groups are very active. No problem. Yes.
We have another comment by Trond Bergensen. In terms of slide 15, liaisons, what is the formal procedure in order to establish a registered official liaison between, for example, inside or across IEC and CENELEC?
So, in fact, the IEC does not have liaison with CEN or CENELEC because we used to collaborate with CENELEC, we use the Frankfurt Agreement. But if CENELEC would be in liaison with a technical committee, then there would be a double representation of the CENELEC countries, because we would say that Germany would be P member and would have experts in the working group, but Germany is also active in CENELEC and would be represented via CENELEC. And so this would not be fair regarding the other countries outside Europe to have the liaison with CENELEC, because this would allow the double representation of some countries. So we do not have liaisons with CENELEC, the formal liaison. But we closely collaborate with CENELEC because we have the parallel vote system. And in CENELEC, there are also mirror committee to the IEC technical committees, and in that case, they work also together on the specific European parts. So because of this dual representation issue, we don't have liaisons with CENELEC. I hope I have answered and I have explained properly the reason for it.
Trond Bergen says, okay, thanks, mirror committees is another topic. Okay, so at the moment we don't have any other questions. Are there any other questions at the moment? A frequent question we received was, where can we find the slides which Pierre has just shown, and you can download these on your GoToWebinar screen. You find a section called Handouts, and in the Handout section you can download the Convenor Best Practice webinar slides, but also the IEC Code of Conduct. So I don't see any questions. Pierre, anything to say?
Good. Well, just I'd like to thank everybody for having spent this full hour with us, and I hope that this was interesting and that this presentation bring good information for managing working groups and project teams. And I thank everybody for the attention.
Thank you, Pierre. I also learned a lot today, so I'm very happy that I could join you in this meeting. Just for the others, we will share the webinar as a recording on the IEC website, IEC Academy, and stay tuned. And thank you very much, Pierre, for your time today, and goodbye.